following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA network. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia Inferior. It's a joy to be with you all once again. And right here, right now, ladies and gentlemen, I get the opportunity to talk to the head honcho, the big cheese, the big kahuna from IWA Deep South. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the one, this is the only Kevin Brennan. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. It's an honor to have me on the show, man. I appreciate you bringing me on here, man. I really appreciate it, man.
Not a problem. I'm really excited to learn about your journey in the wrestling business. And Kevin, the first question I usually ask everyone on the show is how did you become a wrestling fan when you were younger?
I started, man, probably 5 years old. WWF at the time. I was a Hulkamaniac, and I started, early 80s, man. I started watching WWF, and I don't even think I saw WCW till maybe the early 90s. So for about 10 years or so, I was just hardcore WWF fan,
Awesome.
Basically.
Awesome. A lot of people started off as a Hulkamaniac. As the 80s wind down, you get to the 90s, you see a little bit of WCW. When was the first time maybe you saw a little bit of, more of a hardcore style wrestling? And what was it that kind of grabbed you as far as hardcore style wrestling or deathmatch wrestling is concerned?
First time, was probably 96, probably 1996. ECW, I guess, was the first time. Yeah, ECW in 96. I became an instant fan. Shortly after that, I got a hold of the IWA Japan, the first King of the Death match, 95, when it was Funk and Foley. I got a hold of it not long after that. And then after that, I discovered CZW, and then XPW come around. I started, watching that after that, So but yeah, ECW was the first bit of hardcore I saw, and I went to probably 10 shows live. I went to during their time, and then from I think about early 98 up until 2001 when they folded up, I went to probably 10 shows live, So, yeah.
Awesome.
Huge fan of ECW, yeah.
That's cool. I've got the poster right there in my background. So that's really cool. So I guess you're quite inspired by some of these companies, CZW, XPW, ECW. Obviously, IWA Japan as well had some very inspiring stuff going on in that company. But what made you want to get into the business and start promoting your own shows?
The first time, really time that doing the show was probably in the mid. And I would take, and this was back before they recorded shows, like small local indie shows didn't record, the videos for like VHS. I mean, this was like local in Alabama, so I would take my camcorder, and back then they would let me bring my camcorder in and record the shows. And so I'd go record the whole show, and then me and a buddy of mine, we'd go back to my house, and we would voice over the commentary. And I guess ever since then I wanted to be a promoter, but it was around 2000. The year 2000 was when I first made some contacts with some local wrestling promotions, and I co-promoted a show in 2001 with another guy before I started out on my own. And I don't know if you want to segue into when I started on my own, or if that's good enough for right now, and then we can talk about that. But that was pretty much my inspirational years, I guess, right there.
Right. Yeah. I guess this will be a good time for you to talk about going on your own. So please indulge me.
So in 2002, I met this guy, which nobody's gonna know who he is, but his name's Chuck Pepper. It was a local guy. Him and a couple of buddies had made contact with some local wrestlers, and they had run some shows that were they were advertised, as pro shows, but they had several guys on there that weren't fully trained. They're about half trained, and then they had some established wrestlers mixed in. And so back in them days, and I'm talking about 20 years ago, you couldn't just go up to a wrestler and say, "Hey man, how you get into business?" It was kayfabe. It was protected. So it was real hard, man. It took me a couple of years before I finally, got this connection with this guy. Well, this guy was just like me. He just had started out. He had only run a couple shows, and like I said, they were about half trained. About half trained guys, and about half, backyard basically. And so I got in that way. Once I got in through him, then I figured out how I could do it on my own, because this guy, he didn't really have much money. And so when I started making contacts with other local wrestlers, I told them some of my plans, what I wanted to do. And so they liked what I was talking, and they liked how I paid. And so one thing led to another. I finally ran my first show November 9th, 2002 was the first show I ran on my own. At that time, when I first started, I was an associate of Bill Behrens, who was the promoter, owner of NWA Wildside. And so he made me an associate under him. And so my name, when I first started, was NWA Alabama Pro Wrestling. And so I ran under that name for about 3 years before I changed it again. But that's basically how I started.
Right, interesting. I had no idea about that. That's really cool. I did as much research as I could, and I had no idea about NWA Alabama. That's cool. So when you decide to, I guess, change the name, why did you choose to call the company IWA Deep South?
Well, let's see, between 2002 and 2004, about the first 2 years that I ran, I was always wanting to get into the death matches, get into the hardcore. But when I started out locally, I didn't know anybody that was into that. And so when we started, we were just a traditional wrestling promotion. And, we'd have a table here, a ladder here, we would, slide some weapons into a match here and there. But, I didn't know anybody that done death matches. And so in, let's see, I guess it was 2003, I got a hold of the IWA Mid-South King of the Death tournament. And that was like considered, at the time, I guess, the best tournament. Everybody told me it was the best tournament, And so I watched it, and from there, I got somehow I got a contact with a booking agency, and I can't remember the name of it now. It slipped my mind because it's been so long ago. But in 2004, I found a booking agency that had a contact with Ian Rotten, and so through this booking agency, I contacted Ian Rotten. I said, and I wanted to book him on one of my shows. And so, anyway, so I made contact with Ian, and then I brought him down, and he was supposed to work J.C. Bailey, and this was October 2004. Well, J.C. Bailey no showed. I can't remember the reason now, but so Ian brought this guy. His name was Mike Sweat, and this was a guy. I don't think he ever even made it on Mid South. It seems to me like he was part of the ring crew or something. But Ian needed somebody to work. He just had a flunky, and so he brought him down, and he worked. This was in the National Guard Armory, and they worked. They did the barbed wire around the ropes. I think they had like maybe 100 plus tubes. Well, a local Southern wrestling crowd is not used to this, and so we got reported. I ended up losing the venue over it, and so that was my first taste into the death matches promoting wise. So from there, I had an idea. I said, this is the Deep South, and I said I'm working with Ian now, and I done talked to Ian about coming back. And so I had this idea. I said, man, I said, hey, Ian, I said, you know how the NWA, how they're doing, different territories, and you can be Alabama or you can be Mid-South, you can be Tennessee, whatever. I said, man, you need to make the IWA that way. And I said, you're Mid-South, I'm in Alabama, I'm Deep South. He said, man, what would you think about me rebranding my promotion and calling it IWA Deep South? And he thought about it, and he said, man, that's a good idea. And so then that's how it started. And I said, hey, I can't think of a better way to launch the new promotion, the new branding promotion, than with a deathmatch tournament. I said, if it's all right with you, I said, in October 2005, I said, October next year, I said, let's launch my promotion, and we'll do the King of the Death match in Deep South. And so he said, yeah, man, that's good. And so we worked it out, and that's pretty much, how I got it going. Then, we can talk about the first one, next if you want to. It's up to you.
Yeah, no problem. That was nearly my next question. I was just really glad to kind of uncover now, actually knowing that there was a connection between Deep South and Mid South. Has there been a lot of connection with Pondo on IWA East Coast at all?
Well, actually, the inspiration for East Coast was once I got Deep South going, then it's my understanding Pondo talked to Ian about, hey, I'm in West Virginia, and so then he got the idea of starting the East Coast, and then I booked Pondo a couple of times, and at one time we were talking about doing like a IWA convention where like all the IWA promotions get together and do like kind of like what GCW does now with the collective WrestleMania weekend. I actually had the idea of doing that with the IWA brands. This was back in 2005, which it never materialized because myself and Pondo both had a falling out with Ian. And so we never did get to do that. And so that's as close as we got to actually working together. But like I said, not many people know that I had the idea of IWA branding. I don't think anybody knew that. I think I mentioned it one other time. I've done one other interview, and I've talked about that. But most people don't know it was my idea. So, but yeah, that's about as close as we came to working directly together.
Right, interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I always wanted to know about that, and now I do. Cool. So yes, let's talk about October 22nd, 2005, the first ever King of the Deathmatches tournament for Deep South when it gets shut down. I heard you tell the story before on the Carnage Cup documentary, but please, for anyone out there who hasn't heard a little bit about this story, tell us about this day.
Okay, so I had a meeting with the director of the venue, and I told him that I was going to do this extreme hardcore tournament, and I had already done a little bit of hardcore up until that point in that venue and didn't have any trouble. And so I got clearance. He said, but we never went into detail about what all was going to take place. And so anyway, I got approved and we got the venue set up for Saturday, October 22nd, 2005. We was launching the new promotion, IWA Deep South. And for the first one, we called it King of the Death because that was before I got the Carnage Cup idea. And so it come time for the show, and I wasn't nowhere prepared. You know, I had the gimmicks pretty much I got on my own. I mean, I had maybe one or two other guys help me out just a little bit, but that was my first deathmatch tournament ever. So I was kind of in over my head, not knowing what to fully prepare for. I just wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready for it. And so anyway, we got to the show, and I had the show laid out. And anyway, so we got done. We got ready for the first match. It was Brandon Prophet versus Diehard Dustin Lee, and we were using those thin light tubes, the T8 light tubes they tell you not to use. It was the same ones that Nick Gage hit sideways when he worked Thumbtack Jacket TOD.
Shit,
You know,
yeah,
he fucking died. You know, in the
yeah.
helicopter. Well, so I mean, we had like fucking 100 T8s, you know, on boards and laying in the ring and everything. They were just swinging, man, killing each other with them, like you know. And at one point, Brandon Prophet uh, threw a bundle of them down on Dyer's shoulder, and it opened him up, man. A big old chunk, man, and like down on the floor, the fucking meat was out on the floor, man. The skin, you know, and so anyway, they got done, did the finish. As soon as the match was over with, Dial was screaming. Man, he was hollering like he was dying. And they said, call 911, call 911. So he went on to the back and they was trying to stop the bleeding and everything. He said, I got to go to the hospital. And the guys told him, said, no, don't go to the hospital. Just chill out, man. Get some glue, you know, just bandage it, do whatever, but don't go to the hospital because people, I don't know what it was, people just had a intuition. Everybody was thinking something was going to happen, you know. So anyway, he called the ambulance. The ambulance come up there, and when they call at this building here, and it's probably like this in other buildings, it's a city-owned building. And anyway, they had to call the director when the ambulance came down there. So they called the director and said, "Hey, we had a 911 call. This guy said he got messed up, cut up real bad at this wrestling." So then the phone rang in the office at the building, and it was the director. He wanted to talk to me. He said, "Put Kevin on the phone." He said, "Hey, what's going on?" They said, "I heard this guy got messed up and got a chunk out of his shoulder and going to the hospital." They said, you're gonna have to settle this stuff down. You're gonna have to do whatever you got to do. This shit can't happen again." And so he said, "If I get another call, I'm gonna shut you down." And so like I hung the phone up and I walked back in the venue, and here's Marty Shipbuyer flying off the top of the damn balcony through a damn table. Well, 5 minutes later, the phone rung again. It was the director. He said, I'm shutting you down. I'm shutting you down. They called. The guy fell off the damn roof. He said, I'm shutting your ass down. Cops will be there shortly. The cops get there. They said, we got instructions from the director, shut the show down. Said, done have one go to emergency room. We had another one fall off the damn roof. I said, he didn't fall off the roof, fell off the bound. He said, I don't care, man, that's 25 feet up. And hell, you got a damn front end of a damn car in here. Hell, you got damn knives and razor blades sticking out of fucking tables and shit. And he's like, all this shit ain't safe. He said, somebody gonna die. And I said, you ain't shutting this down. I done flew guys in, and we got fans here, man. And I done paid all this money. I said, you ain't shutting it down. He said, yeah, we're gonna shut it down. I said, no, you ain't. And man, I was hollering, I was getting pissed off, and I was cussing the police out and everything. I settled down a lot since then, but I still got a temper. But anyway, they said, Mr. Brannen, if you don't settle down and let us do our job, we're going to take you to jail. I said, I ain't settling down. You're going to let me finish my show. I said, and then, that's it. And so, I don't know. My wife left, and I finally settled down a little bit, and they shut down the show, and I was pissed off. I mean, I still paid everybody got paid, but I shut the show down. But like literally like 2 days later, I was looking for another venue to try to reschedule it. And we ended up rescheduling it December 3rd in Elkmont up at the Country Music Barn. And we ended up having it up there. And I think it ended up turning out better than it could have. Tank was in the finals. Tank won it. But yeah, that was a hell of a night, man. And to this day, to the best of my knowledge, unless you've heard different, but everybody I've talked to agrees. There's never been a deathmatch tournament get shut down. To the best of my knowledge, by the cops. There's never one that got shut down. I think like Ian's lost venues after the fact, but I'm talking about actually shut down. I don't think there's ever been a deathmatch tournament shut down in the world other than mine. Now, do you know any different?
No, I've never heard of any other deathmatch tournament getting shut down. So that could be kind of like a badge of honor for you there. That yeah, pretty cool. What made you decide that Tank should be the first tournament champion? What was it about Tank that made you think that he should be the first guy?
Well, at the time, I felt like we needed to put over a guy from the Deep South area, and at that time, Tank was the most experienced and the most recognizable name in the Deep South as far as death matches, but because that was our first show, so we ain't had time to build anybody, and so Tank already had a name. Tank already kind of had a name for himself, because he had been to King of the Deaf in Mid-South the year before, and he'd made a name for himself all over the South. And so pretty much, I felt like the first one needed to be, a guy from the area, from the South. But it needed to be somebody that deserved it and had the experience and had the name. And so that's pretty much the reasons why.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. So what made you decide to change the name to the Carnage Cup? Was it just because you wanted to put your own spin on it? How'd you come up with that one?
Yeah, pretty much. Because Ian had King of the Death match, and for that first one, he gave me permission to call mine that. But he told me, he said, you really need your own name that's unique to IWA Deep South. And so, um, but before the next one rolled around, I had hired the services of Mike Burns, the owner of Smart Mart Video, which you may or may not know. Mike, years prior, was the booker for CZW for a few years. And so, me knowing that, I felt like I needed a quality booker, especially in those early years until I, got more experience and I felt like I could do it myself. So, I hired Mike. And so, Mike had a buddy of his that did artwork and he did graphic design and he did websites. And so it was actually this other guy's idea. It was for Carnage Cup. It was his idea, and so we pretty much sit down and the three of us we said, yeah, that sounds like the best name. So that's what we ended up deciding to call it then.
Cool. I know you've probably had a lot of headaches over the years trying to get a venue. I know in the documentary you had to change venue quite often. How frustrating has that experience been over the years trying to get a venue for these deathmatch tournaments?
Oh man, I'd rather take a swift kick in the nuts sometimes. It's hell, man. So, that's why I don't know if you noticed, like after Carnage Cup 11, we took several years off. Like Carnage Cup 11 was in 2017. Well, see, then we didn't run 12 until last year. So we took what, like 3 or 4 years off uh, for that very reason. But even back in the old days, man, it was hard to find one. The second one we ended up doing in a garage up here locally in Alabama, and that was before we had an athletic commission. But it was like a one and done because my cleanup crew I was supposed to have, they pretty much bailed on me as soon as the damn show was over with. They seen how fucked up the building was, and they said, "Hell with this." They said, "We ain't, ain't enough beer in the cooler. We ain't gonna fuck with it." So they just went home. So I was standing there looking around, and you couldn't see, dude. It was so much damn dust in the air from light tubes. I mean, it looked like fucking snow, and you couldn't breathe, man, because we was in this little bitty building, and the ground, there was so much broke glass. I mean, it's just wherever you step, it sounded like you were stepping on cockroaches, man. It was just, I was like, ain't no way, man. I said, they're going to have to burn this fucking building down. I said, there ain't no way in hell I don't know how they clean. There's no telling how long it took them to clean that damn building up. But that was hell. Then we found the damn campground, but we trashed it beyond recognition. And I didn't intentionally like leave these places like this. Like what I would do is I'd try my damnedest to get it clean, but a lot of times they would just be so trashed and nobody want to help. And then I finally, just the last few years, I started just paying guys to help me. These last few years, I just had to pay guys, man. I mean, several $100s a piece, or they won't even touch the shit. So, but yeah, it's been hell, dude. It's been hell to find a place, keep a place. It's most venues, they won't even let you in, and they won't even talk to you. And so it's been the most unbelievable, hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life is find a venue for Carnage Cup every damn year. It's hard, man. But knock on wood, I mean, we find them somehow. I end up finding them somewhere, and I mean, a lot of times they'll either be little bitty small places, and they're out in the middle of nowhere, but we can still do them, you know.
Yeah, that's cool.
So,
And I wanted to ask, I know you did one last year. Is there any hope on the horizon that there will be another Carnage Cup before the end of this year or maybe next year?
right now I'm projecting to be May of next year. Is my projection right now is May of next year. Hopefully at the same venue. The last time I talked to them, they said I can still come back, and so that's what the projection is: May of next year.
Awesome. Well, for everyone out there, you've got the information right here on the Insider's Edge podcast. The Carnage Cup, again, I want to keep talking about this. Who would you say is the most valuable guy that you had in the Carnage Cup over the years, all these years that you've done the tournament?
The most valuable guy, that's still with me now, hands down, is Angel Dev John Rare. John, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's the most valuable guy to me. That's still with me. Yeah.
Of course, and I have to bring up those John Rare, Spider Boudreaux Saw death matches. How much do they mean to the history of the Carnage Cup?
I'll say it like this: they're the equivalent of the Undertaker streak at WrestleMania. That's what they mean at Carnage Cup Legacy. Those Saw matches are what really put us on the map from the first one all the way up until now. Though I mean, they put us on the map. I've had people all over the world contact me and tell me how much they enjoyed them matches and how much they always look forward to Spider and John. It's amazing to me the kind of impact that it's made worldwide. The way their match has made people interested in Carnage Cup. It's almost like a separate entity from Carnage Cup. It's like you got Carnage Cup, but then you got John and Spider Saw match. That's what it ended up being like. It's pretty much kind of like I said, like the Undertaker streak at WrestleMania. That's the only thing I can really equate it to. But it won't never be forgotten. I mean, obviously, I can't do anymore because Spider's no longer with us. God rest his soul. But we still got plans. I know John Rare's retired. He has retired, but he is going to be at Carnage Cup 13, and we've got huge plans for 13 to give him a going out party, basically. And so I know he's planning on doing something really crazy at Carnage Cup 13, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be it for him. He's supposed to move to Colorado, and I think when he gets moved out there, he told me he wasn't going to do any more. So I guess we'll have to wait and see, but that's the way it's looking right now, though.
Right, cool.
But
And yeah, sorry, continue.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean I kind of got off of that into just John. Yeah,
That's okay.
sorry. I just needed to say that, though.
No, that's totally cool. Yeah, I mean, that would be a great way to give him a nice send off, considering how much he's meant to Deep South over the years. So again, I wanted to ask this one here because a friend of mine asked me that this is something that he would like to hear about. What are some of the worst injuries you've seen at the Carnage Cup? Obviously, that's going to be happening quite a lot, considering how crazy some of the matches can get. What would you say are the worst injuries you've seen?
Oh shit, man. Oh man, I'm gonna have to think a minute. Well, the diehard Dustin Lee shoulder, the chunk out of his shoulder is definitely one of the worst. Drake Younger at Carnage Cup 3 when he got half his ear sliced off. Let's see. Oh God, trying to think who else. Scotty Vortex got messed up. Scotty Vortex, I think he almost lost a finger at 3. Oh damn. Let's see who else. I wish I'd have been prepared for this. Let me see. This is the only one I'm having trouble with. Who else got messed up real bad?
John Ray broke his leg, but it wasn't at Carnage.
Yeah, but I mean at Carnage Cup though.
When we ran in Tennessee at that campground, didn't somebody get taken by the ambulance?
Oh yeah, Slack. Yeah, Slack got messed up bad at Carnage Cup 11. Yeah, Slack had to go to the hospital at 11. I forget what it was. His head, wasn't it? I couldn't. He had a head injury. Slack did at 11. Damn, I'm trying to think. Yeah, man, I can't think of any right off the top of my head.
No, that's
But
okay. That's a good bunch there.
I know there's been more than that. I can't think of those. Those are some bad ones there. But dysfunction at the second Carnage Cup. I almost lost his thumb. I know it's like his thumb was hanging by the tendons. That was one. I just happened to think of that one. Damn, I was gonna try to think about.
That's okay. That's a few good examples.
No. There's one more. Hold on.
Okay.
Big James. Yeah, at Carnage Cup 7, he had to go to the hospital. Man, I know his ear. Like he almost lost his ear, and then he was. I think his forehead was cut real deep. Man, it was a bad one too. I just happened to think of that, but yeah, sorry about that, man. I was trying to think. We've had 12, and I had to try to think back of all the shit that's happened. It's so much, man.
Yeah, that's totally cool, and it's just crazy the amount of abuse some of the guys have put themselves through over the years for people's entertainment. So it really is a testament to them. Aside from the Carnage Cup, we've talked a lot about the Carnage Cup. I want to ask, on average, how many shows do you promote under IWA Deep South a year? Is it just the Carnage Cup? You do some other shows as well throughout the year. How many would you say is the average?
We average about 4 shows a year right now.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, because I was trying to do some research and I noticed that was pretty much generally what I could see was about 3 or 4 shows, but just wanted to check with you. Another question I had, the IWA Deep South heavyweight title has not been active since 2014. Why is it that your company doesn't have like a main championship like that?
We took, let's see, in 2014 we took a break, and I started running the like it's $10 wrestling. I was doing I switched gears when the athletic commission came, because they were when we got an athletic commission, they got to be real strict, and so I for a couple of years I switched and started doing more comedy style wrestling, and so we kind of just hadn't brought it back. But one of my main goals right now is to bring it back, and so I'm I'm planning on bringing it back soon. More than likely next year is when I'm planning on bringing it back.
Awesome. Another exclusive here on the Insider's Edge, everybody. One person I wanted to ask you about, we haven't got too many questions left to go here, Kevin, so I really appreciate your time. Thumbtack Jack, I've had him on the show before. I think he's a great guy, and we had a great conversation. Do you have any fond Thumbtack Jack memories?
Yeah, man. Let's say he was on Carnage Cup 5, and I'm trying to think. I remember when he got here, like one of the first things that I remember he asked was about getting some alligator, and I looked at him. I was like, man, it's that's usually something more common in Florida, But I was like, you can probably find some at a local seafood restaurant, but he specifically asked me about trying some alligator. He wanted to try something unique to the area, and so that was one thing. I know. Let's see. I know he had a hell of a night. I mean, when he worked, he had to work 3 times. What? Let's see. Who did he end up working? Scotty Vortex, and Nick Gage, and then Sexy Eddie at Carnage Cup 5. And I feel like he busted his ass just as hard for me as he did anybody else. But yeah, I liked him. He was cool. I mean, most anything I asked him, he was cool to do. I know he wasn't. I know he wasn't going to do razor blades or the hypodermic needles. I mean, I'd ask him about those, and he wasn't feeling that. He wouldn't want to do them. But yeah, I mean, it's good experience. I had a great, good experience with him, and so he just worked the one show with me. But yeah, he was a great guy, man, and I enjoyed working with him.
That's cool. It's so funny that you mentioned how he was looking to eat some alligator, because when he talked to me, he was talking about when he was in Australia, he ate some kangaroo. So I think that's just a thing he likes to do. So another guy who I wanted to bring up, Necro Butcher. I'd seen that he actually worked on a show of yours earlier this year. How have you enjoyed working with Necro Butcher over the years?
Oh man, Necro's one of my favorite people in the world. Shit, I can't say enough good about Necro. When he came back, I was glad to have him back a couple of months ago, and me and him talked, just like it was yesterday. And he and I share a lot of the same interests. And so, it really bothers me because more places are not booking him, and I guess that's because of his. I guess it's because of his political views or his, some of his views that he has, but which I think is bullshit. But I love Dylan, man. He's a great guy, man. I can't say enough good about him. I mean, he's always busted his ass for me, and they gave it a good show. And like I said, down to earth, very intelligent guy, smart guy. I mean, I love him to death. He's, I can't say enough good about him.
Cool, Kevin. Another question I had was there are so many now. There's so many deathmatch tournaments that go on. GCW do one. XPW just brought back the King of the Deathmatch Championship. I believe CZW just announced the next tournament of death. The Masters of Pain coming up soon. There's so many going on right now. It seems like death matches are becoming almost like a novelty in a way where, people like a Matt Cardona is doing a death match. Buff Bagwell's talking about maybe he should do a death match or something like that. What do you think about how deathmatch wrestling has kind of become even more well-known today in pro wrestling?
I mean, it's a double-edged sword. It's good and bad. It's terrible for me because I remember back when I started and we ran our first one at at the time when I ran my first deathmatch tournament, I think there was TOD, King of the Death, and what I think that was it. Maybe one more.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it was, and in mine, I was like only the third. And I think at a time, I think mine was like the third tournament in the United States. And so I remember a time when I was one of the first ones. I mean, there was only like TOD and King of the Death, and there was us. And so I'll be honest, back in them days, man, I made a shitload of money, man, compared to now. Because now, see, the only problem with everybody doing them is there's not as much money because, you split the fans up and then everybody's trying to keep up with all the shows. And so from a business standpoint, it's terrible. But I think from a fan standpoint, I think it's good, if you love death matches. So, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, fair enough. Great answer as well. I kind of feel like this is what happens. Something becomes a little bit popular, the market gets oversaturated, and it hurts everyone in the long run. But it's also good for the fans. So you're right there. Another question that I have, we're getting very close to the end here, Kevin. Appreciate your time again. What else do you hope to achieve with IWA Deep South? Is there something that you haven't achieved yet with the company that you're hoping?
Let's see. I tell you, I want. There's one thing I want. There's one thing off the top of my head. There's a venue in Birmingham. It's probably one of the most well-known venues in the South, Boutwell Auditorium. That's where the old Continental and Southeastern Territory used to run back in the day. One of my short-term goals, I want to do an event in that venue. A couple of the other goals I'd like to do is I'd like to run shows, further away, possibly even outside of the Deep South. I would say other than that is probably just get more well known, get on more streaming networks. We just got to deal with Tubi now, so we're gonna be streaming with Tubi. I've got another company I'm working with something on. So yeah, really, those are the main goals right now I got that I want to achieve with IWA Deep South.
Very cool. So right now, Kevin, it's the final segment of my show where we get to find out about some of your favorite things. It's about 10 or 12 here, but they're kind of quick fire questions for quick fire answers. The first question here, Kevin, is who is your favorite professional wrestler of all time?
I'd say Hulk Hogan, man.
Excellent. Is there a favorite match in the history of pro wrestling that you'd say that's your favorite?
Oh shit, man.
I know that's a tough one.
Favorite match. Oh shit. Man, maybe Hogan Warrior. It's kind of a toss up, Hogan Warrior or Stone Cold and The Rock at Mania 17?
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, it's pretty toss up between them two, man, probably.
That's two pretty great choices there, I'd say, Kevin. Moving away from wrestling now, do you have a favorite book?
Man. Man, that is a tough one, man. Well, I mean, out of principle, I gotta say the Bible, man. I just out of principle, man.
Yep, fair enough.
But I'm not a huge reader though. But
yeah,
I'd say the Bible, man.
No, fair enough. We've had that answer on the show several times. Do you have a favorite TV show?
Man, I've had several. Most recently, I like Vikings. Right now, I'm pretty big on Cobra Kai.
Yeah, me too. I love Cobra Kai. Do you have a favorite film, Kevin?
Damn. Let's see. Man, several. It'd be easier to go by genre. But the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is hard to beat, man. But and the original Exorcist, some of the old horror movies. But I've got, like, you could go to other genres, and I could pick one like per genre, though would probably be easier. Yeah.
Yep, no,
Yeah.
fair enough. That one's always a tough one. This one can also be a tough one. Do you have a favorite musical artist or band?
Yeah, it'd be a genre thing too. I mean, I don't know. Is it all right to do that? I mean, if I went genre, I'd say like rock. I would say like AC/DC, Guns and Roses. If I went I'd say country, like, Merle Haggard, Hank Jr. If I go, I don't know, pop, man, maybe Elvis. Yeah, it's tough, man. Just off the top of my head, those.
That's cool. Guns N' Roses are my favorite band, so that's pretty cool. Getting away from the arts now, Kevin, do you have a favorite food?
I like Italian and Mexican are probably my two favorite types of foods. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Do you have a favorite place to eat on the road?
Waffle House.
That's the number one answer we get for that question on the show. Do you have a favorite alcoholic beverage, or if you don't drink, just a favorite beverage in general, Kevin?
Coke.
Coke. Very nice.
Yeah.
The second last one here, Kevin, is I guess the naughtiest one of this segment. Favorite female body part. You see a good-looking lady, where will your eyes go to first?
Ass.
Excellent answer. The exact same answer that Mr. Domaraco gave me. So you're in good company there. And the final one here, Kevin. Favorite curse word.
I guess probably fuck, I
guess. Awesome. Well, Kevin Brennan, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate learning about a little bit about your journey in pro wrestling. I'm sure you have so many other stories, and so it'll be great one day to have you back on the show. But again, I really appreciate your time. This has been really fun for me. So thank you very much.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. And yeah, if you want to, I'd be glad to come back on and talk about some other stories. I got plenty of them. So just let me know, man. I appreciate you letting me on here.
No problem, Kevin. Thank you very much. And thank all of you out there for joining us for the Insider's Edge podcast. I'm Karlifornia. This is my new friend, Kevin Brannen, and we will see you down the road. Thank you.